Hi there, welcome back to episode 2 of Horsing Around with Horsepower. My name is Jishnu and I'm joined once again by my co-hosts Hanno and Max. Hi guys.
Hello.
Alright, and also alongside Hanno and Max, our two guest friends Abhishek and Vivek are joining us again this week.
Hey, what's
And
up, guys?
you can think of them as sort of being like recurring guests on a soap opera or something, you know?
Yeah,
Like Janice on
some
Friends.
supporting characters.
Actually, that's all the examples I have.
Wait, who from where?
Janice from Friends.
Janice from Friends.
I'm sorry, I've never watched a single Friends episode.
Bro,
Give me all the
absolutely
hate.
glad.
Why?
Give me all
with
the
you.
hate.
Get
There-
out.
there-
Me and
there
Nick
all
got
the
the
hate
cool ones, the
Alright,
cool guest
send in the
appearance
hate
and
to
people.
our Instagram pages right now. And Abhishek and Vivek, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. It was a great race weekend. It was really exciting, and honestly, so much drama happened. I'm looking forward to talking in this podcast about it.
Yeah, man. Hopefully our listeners also looking forward to this episode. All 103 of them, actually. We had a pretty
Wow.
successful first episode.
Yay!
Thanks for all the support, guys.
And Vivek,
Yeah, no, I'm doing all good. And the weekend that just passed, I think it was quite a good weekend. Maybe the race itself, not as interesting as maybe other races, but there were a lot of things in qualifying, and overall the weekend was quite good. So, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to discussing about the things that happened over the weekend.
Can I just pause Ritik here for a
Yeah,
moment?
yeah.
He just said that this race wasn't interesting when Lando Norris came on the podium. I'm sorry, what kind of a McLaren fan says it's not an interesting weekend?
okay, I'm gonna pause both Hanno and Vivek right now. This is I'm the host, and before we dive into
Oh my god.
Alright. Now, before we dive into the actual podcast, I'd like to take a few minutes at the start of the podcast to go through sort of our new format for the show, because last week was a bit weird with all the 3 races reviews. But let's take a look at how the format is going to look like for the upcoming races. So we're going to start with a quick race recap at the top of the show, where we run through some of the highlights from not just the race, but the weekend itself. And then our next segment is what I'm going to be calling Highlight of the Weekend. Now, if we had any sponsors, we'll be calling it something like a Rolls-Royce Highlight of the Weekend, or NASA's Highlight of the Weekend.
Yeah. Ray Shuttle
One day, guys.
Unfortunately, none of those companies replied to us, and so we're just going to be calling it Highlight of the Weekend. But it's a segment where we all take turns to go through our top highlights of the weekend, and we're also going to reveal our choices for the driver of the day for the race. And then that brings us to our third segment, which is off-track stories. And this week we actually have 2 pretty good ones for you, so stick around for that. And our fourth segment is going to be a look at the championship standings as we look forward to the next race. And that's what our final segment is going to round things up with, which is a prediction and preview for the upcoming race weekend. So without any further delays, I think I'll pass on the time to Hanno and Max to take you through the race.
Okay, yeah, so thank you, Jishnu, for that quick recap on what our new format is going to be like. Hopefully our listeners do enjoy it, and if you have any changes, again, let us know at any time, because we're open to changes, and at the end of the day, this podcast is, always reaching out to you guys, so let us know. And now, without further ado, I'll go through a quick race recap. I was pleasantly surprised, honestly, during free practice when I saw how both Leclerc and Sainz performed. They were topping the charts for, I think, 2 of the practice sessions on Friday and on Saturday. And I think one of the Friday sessions was topped by either Bottas or Verstappen, don't quite remember. And I was surprised to see Ferrari on the top again, fighting for the pole position, especially after a horrendous season in 2020 and a decently okay start in 2021. So it was a very, very, I think Ferrari fans themselves, and as a Formula One fan myself, it was very fun to see them back in a competitive position, to see them challenging the other top teams, Red Bull and Mercedes, for podiums, and bringing the battle to McLaren for the third spot in the drivers' championship. In the constructors' championship. And qualifying itself as well, they were very, very surprisingly quick. They had a few errors here and there. I'll let Max cover that later on. But yeah. Also, I was very surprised with both Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi crashing out. More surprised with Mick Schumacher actually, because I was expecting Mazepin, almost called him wrongly. Mazepin actually spinning out, but he did very well not to spin not only during practice itself, but also during the race. So, props to him, I guess. So yeah, Max, you want to continue?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, qualifying, it was evident that Mercedes weren't doing very well. As seen through the practice sessions, they were actually lagging behind like Red Bull and even Ferrari, so that was actually really surprising to see them so slow. But the good thing is that, yeah, Ferrari put up a really, really solid qualifying performance. You know, they made it all into Q3 and Leclerc even got pole. But we'll come to that later on. We all know what happened. But Ricardo, how could he have not made it top 10?
Yeah, exactly. That was
Heartbreak of the season.
Well, many people attribute to the fact that maybe he wasn't, like I said in the previous episode, like he still hasn't gotten used to the car yet. So even though he's in a very comfortable track that he's used to, he can't perform well in his current car. And the fact that Giovinazzi made it in the top 10 really, really surprised me. Like, how the hell did he make it up there when he's driving, to be frank, such a underperforming car?
Yeah, man, he really outshone his car there.
So, yeah, qualifying, the results were pretty predictable in a way that after seeing the results from free practice, you could roughly tell like who is going to be where. And so it was kind of predictable, nothing too bad, I would say.
Okay, and
what are your thoughts of?
I'd like to lean on Abhishek and Ritwik. I think there was a very big controversy as to what happened with Leclerc and him obviously crashing out with 30 seconds left, Max being on his hot lap and actually being faster than Leclerc, which means that he was obviously going to put his car on pole. So I think Abhishek and Ritwik, what are your thoughts on Leclerc crashing? Do you think it was on purpose or do you think it was accidental? What do you think?
I honestly think it wasn't accidental because Charles Leclerc crashing into the wall, right, caused Carlos Sainz to get position 2 in the starting grid line. So I think it was definitely not a planned it because Ferrari would have wanted a 1-2 for the starting race. So I definitely think it was definitely an accident by Charles Leclerc, and a lot of people think it was a plan to get all the cars to stop so that Charles Leclerc can maintain his pole position. But honestly, if he did that right, if he actually did that, he's just like screwing his team over. I don't think it was on purpose.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think Charles Leclerc pulled a Nico Rosberg moment down there, but
Yeah.
because if you see the extent of the crash as well, it resulted in him not even like taking part in the race on Sunday. Though initially Ferrari were saying that that it's no major issue and they can take part, but ultimately the crash was quite impactful on the car itself. So yeah, I think it was just an honest mistake from his side because we have seen in Monaco it's very easy to like crash because drivers are always trying to push boundaries. So I think in the heat of the moment, he just made a mistake and he went into the wall.
Yeah, fair enough. So what about you, Jishnu? What do you think? I haven't heard much from you. Is it because Hamilton and Mercedes had a pretty trash weekend? Are you still recovering from that?
He's still so sad. Oh no, Mercedes. Oh no, Bottas.
One of the worst weekends, man.
I'm getting bullied for being a Hamilton fan right now, but I mean, this is like he's like what 56 races without a DNF. So come on, I mean, this is like a little bit of a poor result for him in like a long list of victories and podiums. So I'm not really disappointed in the result for this weekend, but stuff happens. We just gotta win and lose together, and we move on. Fight another day.
Okay, yeah, here's the funny thing, right? You say that and Hamilton actually says that, we win together, we lose together. Yeah. But what a sore loser he is. Yeah. He said, when one of the interviews asked him, are there any learning points of the weekend? Hamilton was like, for me personally, no. For the team, yes, a lot. Come on, I mean, we win together, lose together, what happened to that?
No, but honestly, at this point, is it unexpected from Hamilton to be honest?
Okay, if you're asking me that question, from the way, from the way he was carrying himself when he won, oh yeah, thank you to everyone on the team, this and that, I thought he might say, yeah, it was an error on our part, and hopefully, we can learn from this and move ahead. Man, just straight up went and said, nah, bitch, it ain't me, it's the team's fault.
Easy on the vulgarities.
Yeah.
Huh?
Easy on the vulgarities there.
We don't want to get
like
deep on fancy even before we get on time.
I was I was referring to
Our-
Roscoe. You know,
our-
you're talking to Roscoe and saying that.
Roscoe.
Our primary
Right.
audience is 8 to 12-year-olds, you know, so
Hopefully it's
Nonsense.
a
we gotta keep it
larger
child friendly.
age level audience.
Yeah, and I mean, come on, he did say that, you know, the team had a lot to learn from this weekend, but let's be honest, he's a 7-time world champion, you know, so is there really much more for him to learn? I mean, there obviously is going to be some stuff
Yeah.
here and there, but especially this weekend, I really feel that he was a bit let down by the team. I mean, especially when he came to the pit stops, which we are going to talk about a bit later. But he was clear on the radio that, you know, he was going to prepare for an overcut and he was conserving the tires for that. But then the team decided to pit him in earlier for reasons that we are going to discuss later. But you know, it just felt like maybe the team had let him down this weekend. But then again, I do agree with you guys, you know, when compared to like Bottas, who had a stellar weekend up until that pit stop.
Yeah.
You're really gonna feel for
It's
Bottas.
all a bit
man.
of a confusing state of mind right now. But let's see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that is like a little story compared to, you know, the biggest story of the weekend,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
think is Leclerc's whole weekend going from the high of getting a pole on his home ground to the low of not being able to even start the race and having to, you know, stand on the grid together with his fellow drivers and sing the national anthem, knowing that he's not going to be able to start the race itself.
Yeah.
God, the look of despair on his face, you know, when he hugged Sainz for getting a podium. Right? And you
Honestly,
can just
feels
see the
bad to see
sadness
that.
in his eyes, and I'm like, oh my God, I should be standing on the podium there with my national anthem playing
Yeah.
in front of the Princess of Monaco, and what has happened to me? Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
so
Honestly,
devastating.
it speaks miles about his character.
It
You know,
does.
like him standing there and still like supporting his teammate. You know, it really does speak like quite a bit about him. So I'm glad to see there's team chemistry in Ferrari. So that's one thing they can.
And I think it's very good for Ferrari as well, having that dynamic between both their drivers. I think it would help them in the long run, especially.
Tough Hamilton could learn something.
Yeah,
Tough.
just know.
No, just kidding. If he was Raikkonen up there, like, he's probably just...
It's yacht, and like, just like down there
Yeah,
chilling.
yeah.
Like, nah, man, I'm out.
But you know what? Amidst all that, we also saw a very heartwarming moment where George Russell walked over to Leclerc to comfort him on the grid, which I thought was very nice, you know. And these are the things that, you know, the TV camera doesn't really show. But, you know, when it happens in the race, we obviously get a lot of it. Like in Imola, for example, when Russell came
Slap
over to
him up.
Bottas to, and they both, you know, had that incident.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can be quite quick to judge our drivers based on these on-track moments that we see on television. But I think these off-track moments are just as important and in helping us, you know, understand the drivers better. And I thought that was a really nice moment.
Yeah, and actually this is what Leclerc did was reciprocal of what Russell did last year. Or actually...
You mean the other way around?
the other way around. But actually, remember when Russell DNF from the Sakir Grand Prix, Leclerc actually went up to him and actually consoled him and talked to him. And now it's the other way around, where like Russell came over to talk to Leclerc. So it's really kind of really touching to see both drivers so close.
It does, and like it speaks volume on both their characters because, as I think Jason rightly mentioned, you know, so many people are very quick to judge drivers during the heat of the moment when they, you know, say something or do something. But, you know, us regular people tend to forget that these drivers are driving at 300 plus kilometers per hour, and, you know, when anything happens, there's so much adrenaline that it becomes difficult for you to, you know, always have a filter between, you know, your emotions and, you know, what you display. But yeah, going back to see what Russell did for Leclerc, you know, him comforting him, having a quick chat with him, very, very heartwarming to see that the relationship is always going to be there between them. They're not just drivers, but they're also friends off the grid. And yeah, it was a good touch of character on Russell's part as well.
Yeah, indeed. And well, to get to the point, I guess Leclerc didn't start the race due to sort of a left drive shaft issue, I think was mentioned in the article afterwards the race.
Yeah.
And that meant that, you know, Max Verstappen was starting essentially in first place. And everyone was moved up one grid. Actually, they didn't move up one grid.
No, they didn't. They just started on the same grid position. But before we talk about that, I think it's gonna get everyone's thoughts on this. What do you think about Ferrari's decision to, you know, okay, to be fair, they did check everything, but what do you think of the decision about waiting all the way to the end?
Yeah, I mean, it was very controversial. Like, I also wanted them to like just quickly do a thorough check on his car because you never know. I would rather have them get the penalty rather than not being able to start it off, which is what happened. So like,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe they had some other reasons as to why they didn't want to check it. But will it be released to us? No idea.
Okay, yeah. So no, I just read this on F1.com, I think, and it said that actually they checked the components of the car relating to the crash, and that I think it was a drive shaft issue, right?
Mhm.
Which was something that apparently they don't normally check when such a crash happens. So seeing that, which is that's why they didn't check the drive shaft at that point of time, and they only found out during the race. So I think that's what they are saying.
Maybe, yeah. I think one of the commentators was it, somewhere along the road, they were talking about how either Mercedes or Red Bull, this issue would definitely not have occurred because they would have done a very thorough, very quick check. And again, I think that's where Ferrari are lacking, that attention to detail that is always there in the top teams. That's present in, I think, even some midfield teams like McLaren and Aston Martin also do have it. And I think that's clearly, I think that's the reason why Ferrari led to their own downfall almost, shooting themselves in their own foot by not being thorough enough. So yeah, I feel like they should have, being a Formula One team that's been in the sport for so long, they should have anticipated something a bit more and done a quick and thorough check. Which if they did and they didn't release it to the public, fair enough. This is me going on based off what I know. But yeah, so this is, I guess, a good learning point for them. Hopefully, they come back stronger and faster from this.
And also, I mean, you can't be too hard on them because, I'm sure the mechanics and the engineers must have done spend hours looking at the car, making sure everything's all right. And, some of these issues, you cannot find it on a garage. You have to maybe let the car run a few miles, which is what happened because he felt fine throughout the whole of first sector, I think. And then sector 2 was where he felt some issues with the car. So, it's hard to put too much blame on Ferrari as well.
Fair enough, yeah, true.
But what it gave us was interesting start to the race because one of the main competitors was already taken out from the contention.
Yeah.
And well, I think that was actually the biggest reasons why the race didn't have as much action as maybe we would have expected.
Yeah.
I think it was really interesting. I honestly enjoyed the race quite a bit.
You thought there was action in the race?
I did, yeah, because, okay, to be fair, even if Charles was first.
Wait, are we talking about the Monaco Grand Prix here?
Yeah,
yes,
we are.
yes.
Oh my god.
Even though people may say it boring, I think I enjoyed it, honestly. Being a casual watcher.
I think more than that, I think Charles being knocked out, okay, I might be a bit biased here, but Charles being knocked out meant the McLaren this was going to be a very strong weekend for McLaren if, Ricciardo managed to come back in the points. And even then, with Norris being fourth at the point, he could have fought for the podium, which he eventually did get on it. But yeah, so I thought it was a very interesting race because by taking on the first position, you don't really have a point where, it affected everyone equally because everyone behind Leclerc was, everyone behind the person taking out would have received the advantage, which in this case was everyone. And seeing that happen then meant that we had 3 to 4 different teams coming on the podium this time, and only one of them would eventually be, fighting for the top position, whereas the other was for the midfield. And this is why I thought it was more interesting than having a normal Grand Prix. So yeah.
Like normally the other Grand Prix you see like a double Mercedes podium together with Verstappen up there. And it's like honestly it's getting really boring for like everyone. And it's really a good change to see like 3 different teams, like including midfield teams like McLaren be on a podium. Yeah, it's really a good change, a really refreshing change.
Not just that, even seeing like Hamilton not just like easily getting away in the first position and seeing him struggling to overtake, especially in Monaco where it's such a hard circuit to overtake. I think seeing that struggle, I'm not being like mean to Mercedes fans, but seeing a world champion struggle was definitely a sight you wouldn't expect to see normally.
True.
Yeah, so I think that brought a lot of spice to it.
Yeah,
True.
fair.
I mean, yeah, I think Hamilton struggling was a good point.
Actually, now that Heno and Max have said it, I kind of agree with the point that the race was a bit more interesting in the sense that we had more teams than just the top 2 Mercedes and Red Bull fighting it out. So that I do agree with, but we didn't really see a fight for P1, which is everyone wants to win in Monaco. So
True.
We didn't see a battle for the win in particular. But yeah, I do see your point. It was a bit of an interesting race in that sense. But then maybe this is just because I'm a Hamilton fan, like Abhishek rightly pointed out. It was a tough weekend for Hamilton. But then, we also had like almost close to 0 overtakes in the race.
Yeah.
I can only recall like Mick Schumacher overtaking Mazepin in turn
One.
I don't know the
Lap
turn, but
one.
it's
The
the
first lap, the
hairpin.
first lap, the
hairpin.
first lap.
yeah
It's not
Yeah.
happening.
yeah.
That's about it.
No, I think you're forgetting the biggest one. Mazepin then overtook Mick Schumacher.
Oh shit!
We don't
Don't
talk
forget
about
about
that.
That was
that.
such a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, like no, I didn't even notice it until like the final race results came out. Mazepin overtook him.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah,
that
which is
wasn't
quite
it wasn't shown on the
surprising.
camera.
Yeah,
either,
I'm
because-
surprised they didn't show.
Because another
yeah.
point, I think the race
Yeah.
direction for the whole race in particular
Yeah,
was actually a bit shocking, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was.
it's
It
quite
was.
bad.
yeah. Okay, the reason why it's so bad because normally for F1 races, right, it's directed by the F1 production team, and because they have so much experience doing many years of races, so right, normally they would execute it flawlessly. But however, for this Monaco race, right, the production team is actually a local. It's not a local, sorry. It's a French-based production team. So they have barely any experience doing it, and they're just doing it like once per year, essentially just for the Monaco Grand Prix. Because of that, they don't really know how to direct and where to focus the action on, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's why
Makes
Fair.
sense.
that's why they actually cut away from the really exciting moment where Gasly, Vettel, and Hamilton actually tried to fight for the spot.
No, but you mean Vettel and Gasly? Hamilton really wasn't involved.
Oh man! Oh,
Sure.
shots fired! Shots
No.
fired!
No, I mean,
Good-
it's not about shots. I mean, it's
Yeah,
the
but
truth.
it's-
Hamilton was behind Gasly, and
Yeah,
Vettel and
correct.
Gasly was.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
truth to be told, yeah,
I just can't wait until Baku qualifying when Hamilton out qualifies everyone by like 2 seconds.
nah, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
Ain't
that's fine.
happening.
This one, man.
But yeah, the Verstappen Gasly incident, not Verstappen, Vettel Gasly incident, that was pretty interesting. I mean, it was an overtake, but it wasn't an overtake like based on the track. It was more like a strategic overtake.
Yeah,
You know, and strategy actually played a pretty big part for this race.
correct.
And cost, I mean, it cost Hamilton personally, but it enabled, Gasly, Vettel, Perez to all pursue this overcut strategy option.
Yep.
And overtake all their rivals. And it was quite funny to see because Gasly overcut Hamilton, and then he gets overcut by Vettel himself.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then after that, they all three get overcut
Yeah.
by
Perez.
Perez.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is
that is-
insane. Like,
yeah.
I didn't realize Perez like overcut all of them at once. Like,
Yeah.
Dude, seeing Perez overcut, right? I was so happy. Checo, let's get in.
Yeah, strategy was clearly the biggest
Yeah.
player for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like Red Bull really put off a really solid
And actually,
strategy
that made
this
me
race.
scared
Let's see
for quite
that.
a
They
moment
did.
though, because I was scared. Because I was just hoping that he doesn't overtake Lando Norris, but
Yeah.
thankfully Monaco is a difficult track to overtake. So luckily, Norris stayed.
Lando was losing surprisingly a lot of pace.
He was, yeah,
He
because
Yeah.
so he was on the hard tires and he was complaining about grip and how the McLaren car itself was undrivable. And yeah, I think as Justin mentioned, I was afraid that I was, on the edge of my seat for the entire last 20 something laps, But I think once again, Norris managed to defend. Not that difficult this time around, but he managed to defend his podium against Perez, and he brought it home. And for the first time ever, we saw a car in the podium. I think all of you have seen my Instagram story. I was happy. I was so happy seeing that.
Honestly,
Clearly a
the
fanboy.
the bromance is like I think something that every F1 fan, regardless of who you support,
Yeah, yeah.
love.
I
Yeah,
think it's so
definitely.
rare to see such kind of friendship in F1 itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It is,
definitely.
yeah.
Because they were ex-teammates, right? And frankly, ex-teammates, like your teammates is actually your worst enemy.
Yeah, look at
It's not other
Rosberg
drivers
and,
from other teams.
Hamilton,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Hamilton.
exactly. But it turns out like they have developed a really good friendship both on and off the track. So
Yeah.
I
It
guess
can
we
go
all
either way.
deserve
It can go either way. It really can go either way.
Yep, but
You could have,
the-
but their bromance is really, really strong, and I really admire that.
definitely.
Actually, like just to make it easy for our viewers, you all want to explain what overcut and undercut
Overcut,
means? Because when I first heard it, I was like, what's that? Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, I was thinking about it, but then I thought we might leave it for our beginner's guide to F1. A
Fair,
quick plug there
fair.
for people
Yeah.
who want to learn. But I guess we can also give a quick snip as to what will happen there.
Yeah,
So, I think I'll let either Max and Jishnu explain it, because
Right, letting the engineers do the work and see. Alright, okay, so it's actually there's an overcut and an undercut. Overcut essentially just means you are pitting after the driver that's in front of you. So, for example, you're in second place and you actually wait for the guy in first place to pit first for new sets of tires, and then meanwhile you just try to go all out with a current set, just insane. You just push and try to widen the gap, and then once it's gone in to change his tires, you then come in to change your tires. Undercut essentially is the other way around, whereby you pit before the driver in front of you, so as to gain advantage when he hits when it's his time to pit.
Yeah. And I think how it works basically is in lap and out lap. So what that means is in lap is the lap that you're performing when you come into the pits, and out lap is once you've pitted on the fresher set of tires. So what happened in Gasly and Hamilton's case, and even Vettel's case, because they were so close to each other, was that when Gasly was going to pit in that lap, both his first and second sectors were insanely quick when compared to Hamilton, which meant that he actually saved some time. And then when you compare it to Hamilton's out lap, all three sectors were actually very, very slow. So overall, Gasly actually managed to gain just a few seconds that he needed to stay ahead of Hamilton. And I think that was an error on Mercedes' part, the team strategy. After a brilliant show in Spain, they came back with, I would say, less than par. And then Vettel went out longer than both Gasly and Hamilton, which meant that he stayed on track for a longer time, managed his tires better, and when he came to it, his in-lap the first sector was actually the fastest of the race itself. It was even faster than Verstappen's the fastest sector. So that was why he managed to not only then catch up to Gasly, but also overtake him eventually.
Yeah, so I think in that sense it was also quite a good weekend for Aston Martin as well. I think one of their best so far, right, in this season.
I think the best finish for Aston Martin.
And also a quick word on the overcut undercut thing. That's actually one of the critical aspects of strategy in terms of timing your pit stops perfectly, so that you want to get the strategy right to ensure that your driver not just doesn't lose places but also gains places in a race. And we're actually going to be talking more about that in our Beginner's Guide to F1 series, so do stick around for that. And so that happened, but I think we're missing out another bigger talking point of the race, which is Bottas's unfortunate pit stop.
I feel so sad for the guy.
How did we forget that?
It's so sad.
It was.
Okay, but the silver lining of that
Again,
was that
for the
Lando Norris managed to get on the podium, so that was something that was... That's a silver
even
lining of the situation, I guess.
Yeah, but even as a McLaren supporter, I think it's insanely sad that it happened to Bottas, not Hamilton, simply because Bottas, I think, deserves the podium. I mean, come on, let's be honest. He's been a beta driver for so long, despite his talent. I feel sad that, when the nut didn't come off. I think Jishnu was telling me you had some special information for us for this episode. So yeah, go ahead.
And so the special information is that Mercedes are actually still trying to take the tire out of the car at this point as we're recording this podcast, which is I think James Ellison, who was the technical director for the Mercedes F1 team, he said that they need to bring the car back to the factory to take a look at the tire and the situation that is with the car at the moment. And they even actually tried asking other teams on the grid after the race to help them try and remove the tires. I think they're asking for hammers or wrenches from Ferrari.
Desperation.
I was just trying to imagine that. It was hilarious. But
the reason why it was
disappointing moment.
But the reason why it couldn't come out at all because the wheel nut, it got literally, the threads on it was literally stripped off, so there's no grip for the wheel gun to unscrew it out. So that's why they can't get it out until now.
And I don't know how that happens. If it was because of the amount of pressure they put on the wheel nut itself, then it's insane because you need, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know you need a lot of force to wear down the stripping, to strip down the nut itself. So I don't know how exactly it happened.
Yeah, nobody knows how it happened. But I only know is that for the wheel guns, it's kind of consistent. They all use a wheel gun from the same manufacturer. Only the wheel nuts that I think teams have the freedom to design it, how they want to interact with the wheel gun. But other than that, the specifications are the same. So the size, the diameter, all that kind of stuff. But if I remember correctly, they can design it for themselves. So maybe it could be a design flaw, could be just a specific wheel nut that just so happened to be off or different from the rest that causes incident.
True.
For sure.
Yeah, but after that incident, I don't think there was any other incident to talk about in the race.
Yeah.
It was a pretty much a
Yeah.
possession for like the rest of the 40
Yeah.
some
Yeah,
something
no, I was
laps.
really hoping
Yeah,
that
so
Ricardo,
Verstappen-
make his way in the top 10, but sadly it didn't happen as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
difficult to make a way
I
up
was
the
I was so
positions.
hoping Checo would just like overtake Lando
No.
Norris and get another
No.
option.
No, why would
Definitely
you
not.
want
Yeah,
that,
no,
Abhishek?
yeah,
no.
me. No. I was hoping so badly.
No, Abhishek, there is no way
Yeah.
that Checo would have overtaken Norris.
Norris is just too good.
But if Checo
Not-
did overtake, goated,
No,
absolutely
no,
goated.
Checo would not
No.
have overtaken Norris, sorry, no matter how much of a goat he is.
Like not
Yeah.
on the tracks, not on the sheet.
Yeah.
No, but if he did pull that off, there be.
Especially with this year's cars, they are so wide and so like the size compared to the track,
True.
it's impossible to
Yeah.
overtake. I mean, the other categories that raced over there, Formula E, Formula 2, and those other categories, we saw plenty of action. But F1 with the size of those cars, like there wasn't even a chance, I guess, to overtake.
I mean, Verstappen literally led from start to
Yeah.
finish. So that goes to show how hard it is.
Comfortable win for him. Comfortable win for him.
Yep, very comfortable.
And now that we've done our race recap, we are going to get into the highlight of the weekend
Yeah.
segment. So we're going to take turns in this segment to each go through our highlight of the weekend and reveal our choice for driver of the day. So who wants to go first?
Abhishek?
I go
Yeah,
first?
let's go.
Yeah, sure,
Yep.
I'll go first. I think for me, the highlight of the weekend, right, even though it wasn't televised properly, but one was following the positions on the side screen, was Vettel's overtake over Gasly and Hamilton when he was
Yeah.
leaving the pit exit. I think Aston Martin's race strategy, not even just like Sebastian Vettel, but Lance Stroll also performed pretty well.
True.
I think Aston Martin's, excuse me, performance in general in Formula One this race weekend was absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to what they can do in the coming races.
Yeah.
So that was for me. And for me, driver of the day, I think we'll go to Checo
Uh-huh.
because I'm biased, the Red Bull
Yeah,
fan.
yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, like after overcutting I think Gasly and Hamilton,
Yeah.
like the pace he used to catch up to Lando Norris was actually pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So I would give my vote to him.
Okay, what about
Yeah.
you, Ritwik?
For me, actually, the highlight of the week, as Abhishek mentioned, would be when Perez, he overcut three of the drivers, gained 3 places, and seeing his performance, I think that was really impressive. And okay, honestly speaking, I think if it wasn't Monaco, he would have overtaken Lando Norris as well. So, I think in that sense, that was my top highlight of the weekend. And but the other highlight for me was Lando Norris, getting that podium, just highlighting the potential that McLaren also have, and I'm really looking
Definitely,
forward
yeah.
to more podiums by McLaren as the season goes by, and especially
Yep.
from Daniel Ricciardo. Like I really hope
Yeah.
he finally gets comfortable with the car and really shows what he's made of, because right now he's not showing his true potential. I think that would be great to watch.
How about you, Henry?
For me, I think one of the biggest highlights, honestly, was not something that happened, but something that didn't happen. I mentioned this before, but it was Mazepin not sitting in Monaco. And I mean, okay, as not really devastating, but as surprising as it was, I think mad kudos to him. I mean, he spun in his first ever F1 race within the third lap itself, and he crashed out of the race. And the improvement that he has made from there until now, and one of the most difficult tracks that it can be, in terms of how much you need to concentrate and how much it extracts from you mentally. I think he's done very, very well. So I mean, fair play to him. And another highlight for me was Carlando's podium. Seeing the brothers between them again, and then the press conference afterwards, and seeing the 3 of them joking around. Especially after the very usual, very boring handball board, the press conferences. It was a good, refreshing thing to Formula One itself, and we could finally see Verstappen be happy in those press conferences, not boring and super, serious. So yeah, and for me, I think the driver of the day has to go to Vettel. I mean, he performed terrifically throughout the weekend. and he maximized the potential of the Aston Martin car. And then the way that he then managed to come from behind and then overcut both Hamilton and Gasly was super. So
Okay, just want to chip in about the post-race commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just have celebrities not doing interviews with the race
Oh my
drivers
God,
ever?
yes.
Like Serena Williams
My God,
stealing
it's-
Max's spotlight was absolutely horrendous. Like, it was so cringe to watch it.
Actually, I also had the impression that I think she didn't even know what F1 is, and she didn't even know who the
She
drivers were.
didn't.
Yeah, I think she was like, "Who is this guy I'm
yeah.
talking to?" Like that was the.
Yeah, she was only there to, I think, celebrate because they thought that Hamilton would get his 100th podium or 100th pole, and they were there for that. That's why they brought Serena Williams in, and I think Abhishek said it right. We really shouldn't get celebrities who don't watch F1 to ever come back, and especially they shouldn't interrupt the pole, the winners interview. I think that was insanely rude of them.
Yeah, definitely. It was so awkward. It was even more awkward when she was wearing the checkered flag.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, but I loved it when they asked her what are your tips for F1 drivers or something, and I was like, yeah, she's qualified.
I'm not in a
She's so
position.
qualified, right, to give out tips to
That was dumb.
all
To be
these
fair, she did
drivers
say
out
that she
there.
doesn't have any advice, which is fair play from her as well. But yeah, so F1 did. I don't know what they do, but so yeah.
Yeah. At least we saw Williams in the top three.
My God.
Sick burn. That was good.
It's not a Williams that we
That
all
was good.
Max, who's your highlight?
The highlight for me is actually Lando's podium celebration where he brought back the signature champagne popping.
That was cool.
I got so hyped up when it was that. That was just really cool. Okay, but on a more serious note, the highlight of the race, I would say, would be the battle between Perez and Norris. Because, frankly, being a fan of Red Bull, I really wanted Perez to be on podium. But then again, I was also really with Norris, and I really wanted him to just defend on him. So it was really a hard decision for me to think, who to choose, Perez or Norris. I don't know. But in the end, Norris got podium. I was still really happy for him. And then when I saw the photo of him, at Park Family with his car, his one-off helmet with a special design together with the champagne and the trophy. It's really awesome. Together with the top. And the driver over there for me would be Vettel. He did a really amazing job together with his team, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. Why? Because actually his not racing point. Aston Martin's car is not really optimized for tight corners. It's more straight line speeds because it's built similarly to Mercedes' car. But
Don't
the fact
get
that
us
they
into that
actually,
argument.
no, it's right. Without dwelling too much into the technical details, it's just that I was really surprised that they were actually able to keep such a solid race pace throughout.
True. I see what you mean. For me, I think my highlight of the weekend was the comeback of Ferrari. I think this is a team whose performance has been sort of criticized over the past the whole of 2020 and the earlier of this year. But we can't forget that this is one of the biggest team. This is the biggest team in F1, and their history goes way back. And this is a team who if anyone has the potential to make a comeback, it's Ferrari. And it was so good to see them back at the very top, fighting for poles and even the race win, actually, like Sainz was saying in the press conferences. And that was the highlight of the weekend for me. But in terms of driver of the day, I would have to say Carlos Sainz as well. Because you see the number of other drivers who are in the new teams struggling to adapt. We're talking about Daniel Ricciardo, we're talking about Fernando Alonso. And, Sebastian Vettel had a good weekend, but the previous races he was still struggling. But Sainz has adapted to this car perfectly well, like 4 races in, and he's already on the podium. So his performance today was really a big highlight for me. And that takes us on to our 4th segment, maybe our 5th. I'm not really keeping track of it right now, but the next segment, which is the championship standings as we head into the next race. So,
my favorite part.
This is actually a bit interesting. I mean, first 4 races, 3 of them were won by Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And they were at the top. and then suddenly we see this huge swing in momentum from Mercedes to Red Bull, both in the constructors and in the driver standings, and that just makes the championship fight a lot more spicier, for the lack of a better word.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I mean, it is insane how well Red Bull have done and how much they have, caught up with Mercedes, and now they're leading by 1 point in the in the constructors championship, and by 4 points actually leading in the drivers championship. It is amazing, and I hope to see this battle going back and forth between them, with of course Red Bull emerging as victors at the end.
Yeah, I feel this was I think this was a very important win by Red Bull, because what it also did is, I think, halt that Mercedes momentum, that they were having. So I think in that being said, they have halted the momentum, and on top of that, they have overtaken them in both the driver standings and the constructors championship. So I think it really makes for an interesting battle going forward, and I think this will make Baku more interesting as well, because I think Hamilton, before Monaco, he mentioned that Baku is a circuit where Mercedes might struggle a bit as well. So, now that they had, quite a dismal performance, I would say, at Monaco, I think it's ever important for them to bounce back in Baku going forward. So it would be interesting to see the strategies they employ and the performances by the drivers as well.
It would, yeah.
Indeed. And that battle between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, I think it's very important win, like you said, to halt that momentum, because we've often seen in the past, especially the past 4 years, where the momentum of Mercedes and Lewis is what enabled them to really pull off the championship victory, even in seasons when their car was arguably not the quickest, but they had that momentum, they had that performance advantage sort of to pull off victories in tracks where they were arguably not as competitive as other cars. And well, that's the top two, but further down the championship order, we also have some interesting changes. We've seen Norris make it back to P3. What do the McLaren fans over here think about it?
I'm elated by it, man. I think even before the race began, I think us five were actually having a discussion as to who's going to stand on the podium. And with Charles Leclerc out, I said that the podium would be Verstappen, Sainz, and Norris. And then Vishnu Riley mentioned, "Oh my God, are you forgetting Bottas?" And I said, "No, I'm just accounting for his crash."
I remember
And
this.
while he
You
didn't crash,
actually cursed him, didn't you?
he did,
That's why that pit
get
stop
out of the
happened.
race.
Like, it's your fault.
Ah, yes.
Nah.
Yep. It was my
Daniel,
curse.
why you do
So now
this?
it's my fault. Wow.
No, not your fault. This was my fault. But yeah, so it was awesome to see Norris come back to P3. It's going to be a good fight between him, Bottas, and Charles. And I think it was very important for Charles to make it for Ferrari, but him not being or even racing, not starting this race, actually makes the midfield now even more interesting, because without that, both Sainz and Leclerc would have given Ferrari a huge boost in the Constructors' Championship.
Definitely.
So this is actually very pivotal. Let's see if this costs Ferrari a third placing in the Constructors' Championship at the end of the year. So yeah.
I think what it's going to come down to is how fast Daniel gets adapted to the new McLaren, because these two teams are separated by almost nothing in terms of performance overall. Of course, in some tracks we have Ferrari showing the upper hand, and some tracks we have McLaren showing the upper hand. So I think Daniel Ricciardo's part is going to play a big part in this championship battle. Not championship battle, but constructors midfield battle.
Right now, like the constructors standing between separating McLaren and Ferrari is literally just 2 points from each other. Yeah, it really boils down to Ricciardo.
Not just that, I think going forward, right, I think the second driver is going to play a huge role for the top two teams, especially for Mercedes, to bring them to the top, because Bottas and Checo themselves have to prove themselves in the upcoming races, and I think their performance will be the one that determines who's going to come out on top, honestly. Yeah.
True.
So it's not just a battle of Hamilton versus Verstappen, but we might see a Bottas versus Perez for the Constructors' Championship.
Very good point. Yeah.
Alright, so let's now move on to our Baku predictions as well as preview on the next race. So Baku being actually one of the most unpredictable races out there, is a combination of super long straights and yet also tight, twisty corners. So it's really a great track for overtaking. So it really is a close battle between Mercedes and Red Bull again, as well as between Ferrari and McLaren. So what do you guys think the finishing order will be? Will it be similar to what we've seen, or would it be a surprise like Monaco as well? Let's run through our predictions.
Let's go. I think you should start first.
Yeah, well, you actually made a good point. Baku is one of the most unpredictable races, although it's only been around for since 2017, I think. But it's 2016, but yeah, the order is almost always unpredictable. So we are gonna try and do our best over here. I'm gonna try and think about this. So you see, Baku is a track with a lot of long straights and some slow corners here and there, and also a sprinkle of high-speed corners. So we have seen that Red Bull and Ferrari are very good at the low-speed corners, and they have a significant advantage over Mercedes, as we saw in Monaco, in those kind of tracks. But then when it comes to high-speed straights and high-speed corners, Mercedes has the upper hand, but not by much, as evidenced by the first 4 races.
Yeah.
So I think in general, Red Bull seems to have the better car. So going into this weekend, I'm going to say Verstappen is going to come out on top again.
Okay.
Hopefully Mercedes do pull out a strategy that helps Lewis win again. But yeah, I think it's going to be Verstappen, Lewis, and I'm going to say Leclerc for P3. Why not?
Oh, okay.
Just throw it in
I
there.
see.
Interesting. Yeah. What are you, Abhishek?
For me, okay, honestly, like people say Baku is going to be a very unpredictable track because it's quite a new track. Looking at Mercedes' performance, the previous race, I think, it's one of those cases when, when a big team takes a hit, they really get scared and, try to take everything in and try to come back stronger. So honestly, I think, Baku, in Baku, Mercedes might actually pull a big one and get Hamilton on top. I can't believe I'm saying this as a Red Bull fan, but honestly, after this incident that has happened, I don't think Mercedes is going to put anything to chance. And, Hamilton might just come first and Verstappen second. And hopefully, we can see maybe Carlos Sainz third, like Jishnu said. Yeah, I think he has potential in the Ferrari car. Actually, not just Carlos Sainz. I know on the Ferrari cars, even Charles Leclerc may come third. We'll see how it goes.
Just to clarify, I think Jishnu said Leclerc will come third, not Sainz. But yeah, I think you got a fair point.
Yeah.
But okay, I have to disagree a bit with what you said because I don't remember in recent history Mercedes having such a big mess up as big as this,
Right.
And being consistently so good and so up there every single race, weekend in, weekend out. This kind of a mess up, I don't know what it's going to do to the momentum and their confidence. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see them come back from that in a circuit that is, I think as Jishnu mentioned, there is few high-speed corners, many long straights, and then a few low-speed corners.
Right.
So I'm expecting a Verstappen number 1.
Okay.
And I think Perez might shock us. He'll come third on the podium. Okay. And I think Norris will come second. Seeing as how the McLaren has been really, really quick in the straights, and they are very good in the medium corners as well, and slow corners, they showed in Monaco. They have got somewhat, they've got some pace, and Norris is actually he's putting everything out of the car, so I think Norris might come at the second or third between him and Perez.
I would love to see Norris on the podium, honestly.
You can't be too harsh to Mercedes fans then, considering McLaren are actually using Mercedes power.
I'm not saying that Mercedes aren't going to perform. I think it's going to be 4 and 5, because they've taken a hit in the confidence. They're a bit out there.
What about you, Vivek?
Okay, so for me, to a certain extent, I do agree with Abhishek because Mercedes have taken a huge hit and I think they have never really experienced it. So it's something that I think they'll really try to come back very strongly. But at the same time, I also feel because Red Bull won at Monaco, they have this sort of momentum maybe going or this push that they might get. So I think that might overpower whatever Mercedes tries to throw at them. So, I think as Jishnu has explained very well, I think Henu also talked about it, why Red Bull cars might be better in this circuit. So I think Verstappen might come out on top, so he'll be number 1. Then Hamilton might come second because maybe Mercedes, they really fight back strongly and they come back for a second. And as for third, I see one of the Ferrari cars, either Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz. And I'm really hoping my third place prediction is wrong and Henel is correct in saying that Norris comes there. But
Yeah.
I think Ferrari have a. I think they have a stronger advantage over McLaren over
Okay,
here.
yeah.
Mhm.
But let's see. I think, as everyone has also mentioned, Baku is very unpredictable. So definitely, I think it's definitely going to be an exciting race to watch.
But actually, in the post-race press conference after this race, Sainz was. I think one of the reporters asked McLaren Lando Norris how he was going to perform in Baku, and Sainz was teasing him a bit, saying that this race, Lando Norris had texted him saying he
Yeah.
could win in
Yeah.
Monaco, and then now going to Baku, he thinks that McLaren and Lando Norris have a better car, so it's going to
It
be
is.
pretty close, I think, between
Yeah, I think
McLaren and the Ferrari
it's going to be
drivers.
quite a close battle between the two. I think at Baku.
Yeah, extremely.
I can't wait for it. Max, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, for me, I've noticed that all four of you have actually went for different predictions, but you all have the same general prediction that you see three different teams on it: Mercedes, Red Bull, and either Ferrari or McLaren. But for me, I honestly think this would be another Hamilton Bottas,
It
combination
could
again.
just be.
It's either one. Because historically, Mercedes has won every single race since 2016, with the exception of 2017, if I remember, which was won by Red Bull, Daniel Ricciardo. Like, to be frank, I'm expecting actually Verstappen to be first, and followed by like Hamilton or Bottas, or either that, some other order. But essentially, it will be these three on the top again as well.
Okay.
Well, maybe I've just become so numb to the fact that I've been seeing these three so often.
Maybe.
Yeah. Interesting
I
predictions.
hope. Yeah, sorry.
I was looking at the post conference, like after half an hour going to take a shower, and came back to watch the post commentary after the race.
Yeah.
I heard that Red Bull might protest against Mercedes for the wings or something. What's that about? You all know?
Wait, isn't it the
It's
other
the
way
other way
around?
around.
He's the other way around, yeah.
Yeah, Mercedes
Protesting
is
Red Bull, is
protesting
it?
over.
Yeah, what was that about? You guys
Yeah.
know anything about it?
Yeah, so essentially, Red Bull's wings, they notice, are a bit more bendy than what it normally is. The rear wings. So what this allows is that because it's more bendy during the straights, right? When they go faster, the rear wing actually sort of flexes and bends more, allows them to go faster compared to normal rear wing, which doesn't flex as much. You can kind of see it as like a sort of like an informal, like an unofficial DRS, whereby it's like a really small addition to it. So that's why Mercedes is protesting it, because they find it's unfair.
Right.
And for those of you who are a bit confused about the aerodynamics, do hop on over to our beginning guide to F1, where we'll be covering this topic in further detail a bit later on.
Thanks for the quick plot.
But yeah, by the way, talking about Baku, right? Was it at Baku where Bottas came? He beat Hamilton?
I think when
I think it was the last race in 2019. I think
in 2019, right?
Bottas that.
Because what I wanted to ask was let's say in this case, he's in front of Hamilton, right? Do you think that again he'll get the team orders to let Lewis pass by and win this race because his championship is at stake over here, or will they let Bottas take
I
this
don't
one?
think so. I mean, here's the thing, right? In the previous race, I think it was in Spain, it was, what do you call that? It was Hamilton overlapping him, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was going to let Bottas at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't about giving his spot up, it was more overlapping it. I don't think Mercedes would want to let would let Bottas pass Hamilton just like that. At least so openly, because it would be very, very controversial.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know if Bottas would, give up his space so easily.
Yeah, I don't think Bottas will. Definitely will not.
And so I think what you did bring was quite interesting. And now I think we can move on to the interesting stories that were outside of Formula One. Vishnu, take us away.
Yeah, actually we have two stories this weekend. One not so far off Formula One, and one that is actually within Formula One. Let's start with the one that's further off, shall we? It's actually the story of Romain Grosjean's. Sorry if I messed up the name there. His pole and podium at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Not the Indy 500, which is actually a race that's happening later in the year, This was the Global Medical Response GP.
Mhm.
And it was actually a pretty big news story because it was one of the first times we saw a Formula One driver going over to IndyCar and actually performing very well there. After
Yeah.
just like a couple of months since his accident, he's getting pole position over there, and it was by such a close margin as well. It was 0.127 seconds for his qualifying lap, and that just shows how close the battle is over there on the other side of the pond, and how talented Romain Grosjean is. And he even went on in the race to actually win second place by just 4.9 seconds behind the first the race winner, which was really exciting. What do you guys remember about Romain Grosjean in F1?
I think,
Do you guys think it was expected to see him perform well in IndyCar?
honestly, yeah, I think the guy's spirit is literally made of steel, man. Like, coming out of a huge accident like that and still wanting to race, I think, the guy is literally made of steel. I really respect him going back. I think if it was someone else, right? I think they would have easily, like, not raced anymore. Yeah, so I think I'm quite proud of
True.
him for doing that.
I mean, if he was Kimi Raikkonen, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't even have been burnt because, come on, Iceman and fire, he'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, for me, I would say Grosjean, kind of expected. I mean, he's a really experienced driver. I think he joined F1 in like early 2010s, 2011, 2012, around there. And yeah, so I guess his experience really played out well, and he could really bring whatever he learned in Formula One into IndyCar. So probably that's why he got pole.
Yeah.
But the other thing which I actually remember him for is funny, I would say he crashed. He was the one that crashed behind the safety car in Baku.
Oh, yeah.
True. That was
Yeah. Maybe you guys don't remember, but yeah, it was kind of a rest for that for pulling off that stunt. Not really stunt, but yeah.
we still see memes about it because I think he just spun out on his own and he crashed, and after that the memes were him saying it was Marcus Ericsson's fault.
Yeah.
He was actually like a couple of seconds behind him at the time.
Yeah.
So that became a huge meme for the year.
Ericsson hit
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the other news, we have is that Norris actually extended his contract with McLaren. Yeah, and he's a multi-year contract. So one of the more expected contract renewals actually. Because seeing his performance really well so far.
And what a way to reward McLaren, right? After renewing his contract for a multi-year partnership, he then rewards McLaren with a podium. So I think fantastic job on his part.
Yeah.
And in that special golf livery that we are going to be missing for sure in the coming
I
races.
hope they will make it permanent. I really do, because that was a beautiful livery.
Yeah, actually, I hope they really bring it back, continue it at some point.
And actually, you know what? Before we close off the podcast, I'd like to end on this note. What do you guys think about this idea of having Monaco be a special livery weekend? Kind of like what they have in IndyCar, actually. If I read if I read correctly on F1.com and WTF1, there's this idea that in Indianapolis, sorry, not in Indianapolis, but for one of the race weekends in IndyCar, they actually let the teams run historical liveries, and it just becomes a huge fun weekend for the drivers, the teams, everyone to just remember the team's history and the sport's history. What do you guys think about this? Do you think Monaco should be one of those weekends?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because Monaco, it being such a historic and such a famous track, it's really fitting if like teams put on like a special livery to show off like the team's history, or just maybe like previous sponsorships and like famous liveries, or even world championship liveries. For example, maybe Ferrari put on the livery that Schumacher was driving when he was in Ferrari, something like that. So I think that's really cool.
I mean, that's a boring example, Max. Ferrari's always been red.
Oh, damn it. Well, there's red and white.
Yeah, true. I mean, to be fair, if I look at it from a team's perspective and with the budget cap coming in, I think it would be a bit of a waste of money, because, it is not easy to, dedicate, it's not easy to get a new livery. I mean, after we heard McLaren's story about how they've been, doing this since last year, August, I believe, it takes time, effort, and money. And with the budget costs coming in, it becomes a lot more difficult to accommodate this. But as a fan, I think it would be lovely to see that.
Yeah, definitely, because I think Monaco is also known for being a circuit like filled with like glitz, glamour. Then like you have all these celebrities like coming in. So I think in that atmosphere of things, I think having a special livery for the Monaco Grand Prix, I think it suits the occasion in that sense. But definitely with the budget cuts coming in, may not a very feasible option, but again, I think it's something that maybe they can consider, I guess.
Yeah, I for one am totally down with that idea. I mean, I would love to see a McLaren in that MP4-4 livery from Senna's days,
Oh yeah.
and a Williams in Nigel Mansell's days,
Yeah.
with the blue, white, and yellow iconic.
Yeah.
liveries. I think that would be fantastic to see back. But then
True.
teams like Haas, maybe they wouldn't really have so much. Bit of a question mark, but
They'll have the rich
I would-
energy, black and golden.
Oh
one, you know?
no, not the rich energy.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Definitely not a good idea, man. Especially not in Monaco.
Yeah.
Man, now I want to go to Monaco myself.
I was gonna go Monaco for the parties, man. Honestly.
Maybe next year, like when the whole the situation becomes
Yeah.
better.
Yeah,
Never
tell you
know,
guys
yeah.
what, if our fans give us enough money, through
Yeah, dude.
subscribing to our YouTube or our GoFundMe
Yeah.
pages,
What do you mean? Give
we'll
us
all-
money? It sounds like
Yeah,
we
definitely.
started an OnlyFans page or something.
Hey yo,
Yeah.
let's do it, man.
We would-
OnlyFans.
We would vlog the experience,
Nah.
wouldn't we? I think we would vlog the experience and put it on our channel.
Yeah.
Sure. Get premium
Actually,
subscription.
just a, like a sidetrack. For races, right, especially Monaco, do the drivers like celebrate part afterwards? Like, do they party or do they go for like
I'm
a
pretty
fancy?
sure. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I think one of my friends, who works in a bank that shall not be named, but she actually once visited a party in Singapore after the Singapore Grand Prix, and a lot of the people actually were partying. Like all of the drivers were present and they were getting drunk. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get sued for leaking this information out of drivers. I think one of them was, of course, Hamilton. You know what, Hamilton, if you want to sue me, come at me, at least then I'll get to know you. Sure. But yeah, so if that happened in Singapore, I'm pretty sure it happened in Monaco. Such an important racetrack, and such a lively city, principality.
And yeah, I actually read about it. I didn't read about it. I think I heard it in the commentary after the race. They were talking about the winning driver getting to have a dinner with the Prince of Monaco, His Serene Highness Prince. I don't know what his name is, but yeah, that was an interesting story. It must be quite an interesting
honor.
experience, not just for the driver, but even for the Prince. To
Yeah.
get to eat with all these not championship winning, but
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that makes it even. That just rubs even more salt on Leclerc's wound. Like, oh my.
wow, that would have been
Yeah.
a dream for
It would have. I mean, to be fair, right, Leclerc might have been able to already have lunch or dinner with the Prince. So maybe we have a good
that's
opportunity for other
Yeah,
drivers.
maybe.
You know?
No, but I think it would have been good for him to win in his
Yeah,
home race.
it would
as
have
well.
been like
Yeah.
Ayrton Senna winning in his home race in Brazil in the past.
Yeah.
He would just pull off
Oh
the
my
same
god,
reaction.
he did that with one gear.
Yeah.
Can you? Oh my god, hats off to him, man.
He really, he did it in one gear.
He did it with one gear.
That's pretty insane.
Wow.
He's
Yeah, he was stuck in that gear for the whole
Yeah.
race, wasn't he? Not the
Yeah.
whole race, like most of the race.
Majority of the race, yeah, it was insane.
Whoa.
and I think it was a wet. Day as well.
What? That?
Crazy,
Yes,
crazy
it was
stuff.
raining.
Wow.
Well, I hope we see stuff that is of similar levels of craziness in the next race,
Yeah.
Baku Grand Prix. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are as well.
Yeah.
Tune in for our next episode where we actually have a special guest, person who runs a Formula One meme page. And I think you'll want to hear some of his stories, having met some of the Formula One drivers on the current grid,
Yeah.
and some even retired Formula One drivers. So definitely take a look out for that. And well, this is all we have for you guys on this episode. And follow our Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channels, listen to us on YouTube and Spotify, like, comment, and subscribe, and all that usual
Yes.
stuff.
That's
You guys
right,
know it.
guys. Hit
Mhm.
us up. Again, we would like some sponsorships. We don't shy away from money. We're broke kids.
Yes. Yeah.
If you feel lucky today, you want to donate to us, go ahead, man.
Yeah, maybe we'll start a GoFundMe
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
dude.
Yeah. So that we all can fly to Monaco.
Yeah.
and
Block
like,
it.
Yeah.
Actually, not
No.
GoFundMe. They have the thing, where you pay
Patreon,
money.
yeah.
Patreon. Yeah, Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon.
Yeah.
No, I should start there.
Right, it doesn't have to be Monaco. Maybe like just a start thing for a start.
Singapore
It could be
as
just
well, you know.
Singapore.
Singapore would be a good starting point.
Yeah,
Singapore,
but I mean,
yeah.
some of us may not be in Singapore for the next few years, and maybe Britain's Silverstone. Either way, any amount of
Yeah.
money for any Grand Prix is good enough. We'll vlog it so that we can share it with you guys. So
Exactly.
yeah. Anyways, I think that's
Alright,
all we have
see you
for.
guys.
Yep, that's all the time we have. Thank you for tuning in. See you guys next time.
Bye bye.
Okay, peace out. Peace
Bye,
out. See
guys.
you all.
Bye.